Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Sober School, where you can always find experience, strength, and hope. My name is Drew. I'm an alcoholic. We want to welcome you to this platform here today, regardless of what your addiction may be. You're welcome here. We support multiple pathways to recovery, not just one, but all pathways. And whichever pathway it is that you choose, we're here to help. And we definitely want to make sure that it works for you. If you're watching this through the Recovery Classroom Facebook group page, we encourage you to share your own experience, strength, and hope in your own words of wisdom. You never know who needs to hear what it is you might have to say, and it could just change someone's life, including your own. Do encourage you to follow those Facebook posts and guidelines, though. We want to make sure that when folks come here seeking that experience, strength, and hope, that they find it, rather than someone trying to get money, scam them out of money, or find a date and send them back out on a relapse. That's not what we're about here. So definitely not a dating site for sure. I want to give a special shout out to my friends from the meeting after the meeting last night. You know who you are. Don't want to specify any names, but you know who you are. I've always said that there were times that I got more out of the meeting after the meeting than I did the meeting. I've never come out of a meeting, or a normal AA meeting. I've never walked out of a normal AA meeting and gone, gee, I didn't get anything out of that. I've always gotten something out of a meeting. But I have, that's been true, but there's also been true in the sense that I've walked out of other meetings getting more out of another meeting than I did maybe a particular meeting. And that's exactly what happened last night. There was four of us that got together. We went to a meeting, and then we went to the meeting after the meeting at the Waffle House, of all places. Who would have ever thought that? That meeting after the meeting, I think, God, we sat there for like 2 hours, maybe. It was like forever, maybe even longer. But the whole time I'm sitting there thinking back to the very first line of Chapter 7 in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Nothing ensures immunity from drugging, as intensive work with another alcoholic or another addict. Well, that's what we were doing, right? It didn't matter the periods or the length of sobriety sitting around the table. That had nothing to fucking do with it. Let me be very clear. It had nothing to do with how little sobriety you might have had. It had nothing to do with how much sobriety you had. What it had everything to do with was the fact we were there talking about our common problem and talking about our common solution. That's what mattered. And I want to encourage you today, if you're struggling today, if you are, maybe you're, 3, 4, 5 days in, maybe you just picked up your white chip last night and you're starting to feel those withdrawal symptoms. You're starting to feel the effects of coming off that drug or that alcohol. You're starting to feel that and you're thinking, man, I don't think this is a good time for me. This may not work. This is going to be a lot more difficult than what I thought. I promise you, it gets better. But how do you just rest on that? Well, guess what? You can't just take my word for it. Reach out to someone, and that's why I'm absolutely a firm believer in the fact that hanging out with like-minded people, people who have gone through what you're going through right now, or who have successfully done what you're doing right now. Get with those people. Just start talking to them. I'll go into rooms and they'll be packed, jam-packed, and I'd say I've been in situations where 60%, 70% of the room, they're not even paying attention. They're not even listening. They're just there. And while I'm thankful that they're there, my hope and prayer is that they at least walk out with something that somebody said. But these same people, they'll never share. They'll never speak up. They'll never talk about what's going on in their mind and what's going on in their heart or in their lives. And that's their decision, of course. But I couldn't do that. See, I had to, when I walked in the room, when I first started going in the AA rooms and listening to people, I started finding hope. And then I started asking questions. I started actively participating in my recovery rather than just sitting there hoping that God was going to slap me upside the head and say, hey, here you go. See, I've said this 1,000 times. God cannot drive a parked car. We have to take an active participating role in our recovery. That may mean, let me be clear about this. I've sponsored guys that they've shared very seldom, and that works for them. But I've also seen them take active participation roles in their own recovery in other ways. I'm not saying you have to speak up, you have to talk. Eric Wilson, he's a good friend of mine now. I remember he wouldn't speak at all. Well, shit. he has no problem at all speaking in public now. And I couldn't be any more proud of him. So I'm not saying you have to speak in public. What I am saying, you need to take an active role in your own recovery. Don't just walk in, sit there, and ignore everybody. At least listen. At least listen. But be willing to share. See, in your path of recovery, you're going to start getting stronger and stronger and develop more and more and more. Last night, a great example, I heard somebody share last night that, man, when she started sharing, I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. Because that means she's starting the healing process. She's starting to accelerate the healing process. For me personally, when I started sharing early in the rooms, I accelerated a healing process. And that's what I want to encourage you today. Find somebody, reach out to them. You don't have to share in a room. You can share with another person. That's what that first line of chapter 7 means. I'm not saying you have to go share in a room. No, you have to share with somebody. Remember, whatever problem you're facing, you cut that problem in half when you share it with another person. And with that, I'll let you guys go. I hope you guys have an absolute kick-ass day. It's Monday, start of the week. Again, I want to thank you guys for letting me come in and share 5 to 10 minutes of your day with you. This keeps me sober. Not just the meeting after the meeting, not just the meeting before the meeting or the meeting itself. It's these early morning meetings that help keep me sober as well. And so for that, I'm thankful and grateful that you guys take time out of your day to let me share my thoughts on some of these things. If there's a topic you'd like to hear discussed, feel free to drop it in the Recovery Classroom Facebook page down below. We'll take a look at it, see what we can do. In the meantime, guys, remember, the simple rule is true. You can't get drunk if you don't take that first drink. We'll see you tomorrow.